Okay, so today we're going to be able to evaluate expressions as well as real life problems. We're also going to look at a little bit of modeling. So I'm going to do some of these by hand and I'm going to use a calculator for others. So we want to simplify. So what I have is 3 parentheses t plus 8 close parenthesis when t equals 2. All right, so what this is saying, everywhere that I see a t, I'm going to take this 2 because t equals 2, and I'm going to plug it in right there. So when I rewrite it, I have 3 parentheses 2 plus 8. And then we use PEMDAS or order of operations. So we're going to do our parentheses or our grouping symbol first. So 2 plus 8 is 10. So 3 times 10. And this is just going to equal 30. All right, pretty straightforward. All right, again, everywhere I see an X, I'm going to put this 2. All right, so I'm going to have 2 plus 4. I like to be real heavy-handed with parentheses because it makes sure that I know that this exponent right here is going to be with the 2, because with the x, plus 3 minus 1. So I have 2 plus 4 again. Remember, we're going to do our grouping symbol. In this case, that's not really the big deal. It's more this exponent. That's the e in PEMDAS. And 2 squared, sorry, is going to be 4. And we're going to add 3 minus 1. Next in PEMDAS, multiplication and division. So we're going to multiply here. We get 16. Then we're just going to finish off left to right. So 2 plus 16 is 18, plus 3 minus 1. 18 plus 3 is 21 minus 1. And that's just going to equal 20. All right, so then we get to something that's pretty ugly, right? We got 3 variables. We have an x, we have a y, and we have a z. All right, so again, I'm going to plug these in. I'm going to kind of color coordinate this for you guys. My x is 36. All right, and I'm subtracting my y, which is 2. And then from there, I'm adding 6 times my z, which is just 1. And there's a calculator trick that I'd like to show you real quick. But let me do this by hand first, sorry. So 36 minus 2 is going to be 34. We do our grouping symbol first. And then this multiplication over here kind of by itself, 6 times 1 is 6. Anything times 1 is itself. So 4 times 34. 4 times 34 is going to be 136 plus 6, which will equal 142. All right. Now we have Desmos, which can kind of make our life a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this whole expression in Desmos, right? I'm going to have 4 parentheses x minus y. That's going to be plus 6z. And then I need to put in my different variables. So x equals, y equals, z equals. Well, what does x, y, and z equals? Well, we know x is 36. We knew that y was 2. And we knew z was 1. Okay, so when I do that, I get 142 as my answer. Because what Desmos does is it substitutes or plugs in all these values for x where an x is. For 2 for everywhere there's a y. 1 where there's a z, right? And it's just going to give us our answer straightforward. So on some of the ones that are more numbery, for a lack of a better word, I'll use Desmos. All right, then we come here. Again, you could just plug this in Desmos and then plug this in Desmos, and it's going to give you your answer. Or I know that everywhere there's an m, I'm going to put a 3. So what I'm going to have is 3 squared minus 2 times 3 plus 10. Well, order of operation, 9. I can do my multiplication here. And it's just left to right. 9 minus 6 is 3 plus 10, and that's going to be 13. All right, this problem is a little bit trickier because what we're going to need to do is you have to do each of these problems. And what this question is asking is which one of these equals 35? Which one of these equals 35? All right. So let's just start off with the first one. 8 divided by 2 cubed plus n. Well, we know n is 3. So for A, I'll have 8 divided by 2 cubed plus 3. Well, parentheses first. So 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. That's cubed plus 3. Then we need to do our exponent. And 4 cubed is going to be 64 plus 3, which is 67. So I can tell you that A is not going to be the answer. All right, so let's try B. Well, here we have 8 plus 2 cubed minus, again, our n is 3. So this is going to be 10 cubed, because we do parentheses first. Now do your exponent. So that's actually going to be 1,000 minus 3, which is 997. So I can tell you that B is not going to be the correct answer. We come to C, we're going to get 4 cubed divided by 2 plus n, which we know is 3. Well, we have a grouping symbol. Inside the grouping symbol, we have an exponent. So let's do that exponent first. So we're going to have 64 divided by 2 plus 3. Let's do our grouping symbol, which is going to be 32 plus 3, because 64 divided by 2. And when we add these together, we get 35. So C's looking good. But because I'm a good math student, I'm going to go ahead and try D as well. And D is probably the easiest. 8 plus 2 in our parentheses is 10, minus 3 is just going to be 7. And we can see that D is not going to be the correct answer. So C was correct. All right, you're also going to get some where we have to do these as word problems. And this is where it's more about reading and realizing what's important. So if the height of a triangle is 8 inches and the base is 4 inches, what's the area of the triangle? Well, it's asking us what the area is. So that's our A. It tells us that the height is 8. So that's our H. And it says that the base is 4. So that's our B. So what you could do is write this formula in Desmos, then write B equals 4 and H equals 8. And that's going to go ahead and give you an answer. Or we could just put in our values. So A equals 1/2. Well, we know base is 4, and it's going to be times 8. So 1/2 times 4 is 2. 2 times 8 is going to be 16. And remember, this is inches squared. Oops. Remember, this is inches squared because we're talking about area. So answer is A. I'm going a little quick because I know you guys can rewind and pause. All right, what's the temperature? Highlight it out in degrees Fahrenheit. So that's our question. What's our temperature in degrees Fahrenheit? We have F. If the current temperature is 28 degrees Celsius, which is C, and that's what we have C. So in Desmos, you could just write this formula out. If you use a capital C here, make sure you use a capital C to plug in your 28. And just to kind of show you, even though in Desmos does take a little bit of time on the computer, 9 divided by 5, we have our C plus 32. Remember, keep that C capital, you get 28. And your answer is 82.4 degrees Celsius, or D. All right, this one threw a lot of kids for a loop. So let's read it first and let's talk about what we need. So a toy rocket is launched with an initial speed of 80 feet per second. Its height h after t seconds in flight is found using the formula h equals 112t minus 16t squared. What is the rocket's height after 5 seconds? All right, so there's a piece of information that we don't need, but let's look at what we need first. So first it's asking us what's the rocket's height. So that's our h. And it says it here too. Its height is h. So it defines h as height. It wants to know what the rocket's height is, but after 5 seconds. Well, if you go back up here, it says after t seconds. Right, so it tells us that it defines t as seconds. Right, and we know that we have 5 seconds here. So the piece of information we don't care about is this 80 feet per second. All right, so again, you could just take this formula right here, and then just put in t equals 5, and it's going to give you an answer. Or you can write it out as 112 times 5 minus 16 times 5 squared. And when you go to simplify this, you're going to get some big numbers. But you'll get 560 minus, let's see, 5 squared is 25 times 16 minus 400. And what that's going to eventually give you is 160 feet, or B. All right, this is probably the easiest word problem, right? Using the figure below, determine the volume V of the figure. The formula of a rectangle prism is V, which we know is designated, described, denoted, whatever. It's V is volume. And we have LWH, which is going to be our length, our width, and our height. So we want to determine the volume, and it's defined as V. So we have V here. And then we want to find our length. So we're just going to have length, our width, and last but not least, our height. All right, so I think using Desmos for this is probably a waste of time because you can just go V equals 3 times 2 times 2. And if you do that, you get 6 times 2. You're just going to get 12 centimeters cubed, and cubed because we're talking about volume. All right, what's the surface area of a cylinder? If H equals 5, R equals 4, use the formula below and let pi equal 3.14. Well, this is really important to know that pi equals 3.14. So if I was going to rewrite this in Desmos, I would just change all of my pi's to be 3.14. All right, and then since we've been using the highlighter, it asks us what's the surface area. Oh, another thing I want to point out real quick. You can't type in S dot A dot. So I just use an S for surface area since we already have a V for volume. Figure one letter works. But we know H is 5 that's given to us. And we know that R is 4. All right, so here's your 4, which is R. And some of you will notice that that's the radius of this top circle. And then H is your height. All right, this one's a good Desmos one because you're going to deal with some decimals. And, you know, it's just not always pleasant. So I'm going to go ahead and type in S equals, remember S is going to stand for surface area. And I'm going to have 2 times 3.14, my R squared plus 2 times 3.14. And I believe it's RH, but I don't think I wrote it out. It is RH. Little correction here. Make sure you add, not add, but you're multiplying your R and your H in this formula. All right, I just need to put in what is my R equal, what is my H. Straightforward. It says H is 5. It says R is 4. And it's going to give you your answer as 226.08. This is surface area. So that's going to be units squared. It should be units squared. With A. All right, last but not least, you guys did pretty well with this one. The hardest part is just getting this in Desmos. So I'll let you read this. Notice that 144 inches means that this person is in fact 12 feet tall. So just like with all of these problems, make sure you're always clearing out Desmos. You don't want to get extra variables in there and have them like mix matching and stuff. You want to come over here to this A divided by B button. That's going to give you the ability to type in your numerator, right? Because that kind of is like its own almost expression, and then your denominator. And we're just going to do H equals, and H is height, and 144 inches tall implies height. And we'll see that this person weighs 572 pounds. So, okay. All right, you guys nailed these. So we know each green cylinder, each green rectangle is an X. And what we're doing is we're actually adding them. So when you add an X, you get 1X plus 1X plus 1X, which will give you 3X. What I like to do is kind of just pause real quick and look down here. All right, you have a negative 3X, so that's no good. You just have an X, which is no good, and an X, which is no good. So D is probably our answer. But let's just finish this off. Here we have a 1, a 1, a 1, and a 1. And remember, we're adding all of these, right? These are all adding together. So that's going to give us a positive 4, and that would be D. All right, I want to talk about something else here. So again, remember, we're adding these. Remember, when we add X's, we get 5 X's. Think of it like if you have apples, right? You would never say, if you had 5 apples, you would have 5 apples. You would never say 5 plus an apple. Just like we would never say 5 plus an X. Okay, these aren't numbers. These are variables. And when we have a group of them together, we have them like together. They're combined by the operation of multiplication. This is the same thing as 5 times X. All right, so this is going to be 5X. Over here with our numbers, we just have a -1. Well, remember, we're adding them. And a -1 plus a -1 is just going to give us a -2. So C is our answer. And last but not least, we have a -X plus a -X, which will give us a -2X. And then we have a 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And remember, we're adding all of these, which will give us a +5. And you'll see that we get A. Do not let these negatives and non-negatives confuse you. Don't let this positive and this negative confuse you. Make sure you're matching them correctly. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Other than that, have a great day.